What's going on, Colts Nation? I just want to take a couple minutes today to talk about Chris Ballard's press conference and what we learned from listening to his end of the season press conference. And, a lot of it is same kind of stuff that we hear every year. But if you've listened to Chris Ballard long enough, you can kind of listen to what he says and be able to pull out some good information from what he's saying, things we might do or things, ways he really feels about somebody or a player that we might need to resign. So, what I want to do here is kind of go through what he was talking about, right? And you start with Coach. When he was talking about Coach, obviously nothing but glowing things to say. Mentioned how it wasn't perfect, and there were definitely different spots where you could see the inexperience at head coach, but he pointed back specifically to the Ravens game and the choices that were made as a play caller in that game and as a head coach in that game, and for what the situation was and how difficult things were in that game for both sides. But to be able to take that game into overtime and to win that game. So as it sits right now, we have Chris Ballard. Basically, he's seeing what we're seeing, right? A guy that's, again, not perfect, but getting better, which is really impressive because Shane Steichen already really, really good as a head coach. The turnaround for this team is something that's going to be an example for other franchises as they go forward, right? Can this coach turn our program around the same way Shane turned them around? Like that's going to be a thing. Right. And another thing that's going to be a thing is Anthony Richardson as the franchise quarterback. Right. Because, again, Chris Ballard saw what we saw. Right. A guy that needs to learn how to protect himself, somebody that needs to figure out, the right times to go and make that play and the right times to get out of bounds or the right time to get down and save yourself. Make sure you're not taking that extra beating. But at the same time, it's a guy that is not only can he make those plays running, but the plays that he was able to make when he's moving around the pocket and scrambling away from somebody, and the plays that he makes as a passer, right? And we saw some of those accuracy issues, right? The short to intermediate, he has a tendency to overthrow some of those balls because he throws so hard. That's just one of those things that happens, right? He's got to figure out whatever Josh Allen was able to figure out and figure out how not to have that happen consistently. But when you have Anthony Richardson throwing the ball down the field, he's as good as anybody in the league, and he can chuck that thing 60 or 70 yards, right? This is a guy that could unlock a guy like Alec Pierce. We just haven't been able to really see enough of it. And when you think about the wide receivers, Chris Ballard's thoughts on the wide receivers, what he was saying about Michael Pittman Jr., like his relationship, his personal relationship with Michael Pittman Jr., and the way that they're so honest with each other and everything that he brings. Like, we all understand how important Michael Pittman Jr. is to everything that we do and who we are as a football team. And Chris Ballard seems to understand that as well. It sounds like he is all in on paying Michael Pittman Jr. because something that he said later on in the press conference after he talked about Michael Pittman Jr., he was asked about other free agent wide receivers and like what that market is. And he went on to talk about like the market is what the market is for different players, right? Quarterbacks making $45, $50 million a year. And right now, wide receivers, you have the star wide receivers making between $25 and $30 million a year. Like, wide receivers aren't cheap, but he talked about like that is what it is, right? The analogy he used was like if it's $4 a gallon of gas to put in your car and you need to put gas in your car, like it is what it is. You're going to pay that. So they're looking at the market as we are going to have to do whatever we're going to have to do to make this team better. He reiterated that throughout the press conference, right? Mentioned how not having such big money put into the quarterback position that they have more flexibility. He mentioned the flexibility with the salary cap a couple of times. So this is where, like we've talked about, if Chris Ballard's ever done a change, this is going to be the offseason, right? If he's ever really going to go out and spend some money and go get different free agents, this is going to be the season that he's finally going to do it because he has Anthony Richardson on his rookie contract, Shane Steichen, the coach of the future, right? This is a time to build around Anthony Richardson. And from the sounds of it, that's something that could end up happening. And obviously, if that were to happen, like there would be other things that wouldn't happen, right? Like Grover Stewart might not get re-signed. Kenny Moore might not get re-signed. It depends how they want to go about building this team for the future and how they want to go about attacking this offseason, who they want to try to pay. We'll see what happens there. There are definitely some guys on the Colts that I'd like to see come back. But with every day that goes by and the more I think about the Colts situation and what they might do and who Chris Ballard is, what he might do if he stays the same, if he changes a little bit, it just feels like there's some guys that the Colts just aren't going to be able to bring back. Some of the guys that we had talked about before, we had a whole series going over the different guys that were going to be free agents and whether or not we should pay them. And we made a lot of it work, right? We had, Kenny Moore, Michael Pittman Jr., Grover Stewart, Zach Moss all coming back with the possibility of Julian Blackmon coming back. Like we had all these guys coming back. There's a chance that a lot of these guys don't come back. Michael Pittman Jr. is somebody that I expect to come back. But with the free agents being who they are and with us being in a situation that we haven't been in, basically since Chris Ballard got here, right? Again, head coach, quarterback are taken care of. We got our guys of the future. We can really build this thing. A lot of cap space. And I expect that we'll use it. You're right. Chris Ballard doesn't always have a whole bunch of money, right? Usually when the Colts have had money in years past, in the offseason to spend, it has to be spent on a quarterback, right? Trading for Carson Wentz, taking on that contract. Trading for Matt Ryan, taking on that contract, right? It's not like we were just bringing these guys in and not paying them, right? Chris Ballard has used the salary cap. Pretty much every season Chris Ballard has been here, the Colts end up with less than $10 million in salary cap money to spend, right? But this is also a guy that's had to go from Andrew Luck to Jacoby Brissett to Phillip Rivers to Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan and now to Anthony Richardson. Like it hasn't been stable and now it is. So we'll see what happens with the whole free agent market. What I know is that Chris Ballard, seems to have done well with his rookies, but just like he mentioned in his press conference about the rookies and when he was asked about the rookies, like you just weren't really able to see enough of them. There were so many rookies from this draft class that ended up injured and missed a lot of time due to injuries, right? And as you go through them here, first round, obviously we take Anthony Richardson. He misses most of the season. Second round, Juju Brents, he missed a lot of the season, right? Missed the beginning of the season dealing with a wrist injury that happened in the offseason. He comes back, plays well for a few games, then ends up missing more time due to a hamstring injury. Comes back, plays well again, and ends up finishing the year with a hamstring injury. All right, but then you have Josh Downs from the third round. He was able to play most of the season. I actually don't think he missed any time, if I'm not mistaken. I think he missed one game. I think he missed one game this season. But for the most part, Josh Downs was able to be out there. We saw what he could do. I just think with Anthony Richardson back in the lineup, Josh Downs will be much better. Okay, but then you have Blake Freeland, who came in, was able to stay healthy this year. Not the greatest season, but Chris Ballard talked about that. Like, it might not have been a great season for Blake Freeland all around, but he had a lot of tough assignments, and he knows that he has to get stronger. Just like Bernard Raymond had to, Blake Freeland's going to have to get stronger. He's going to have to continue to work on his footwork, but the development can happen, and I expect that to be something that takes place. Okay, but then you go through and you're looking at the rest of these rookies. Darius Rush doesn't even make it through training camp. He was drafted in the 5th round by the Colts. Daniel Scott, somebody that the Colts were looking forward to seeing on the field at some point, but he ended up getting hurt, missed the entire season. Will Mallory was in and out of the lineup, but he looks like he's going to be really good. Evan Hull barely played. I think he played 2 snaps in the first game and then was out for the rest of the season. But I think Evan Hull has potential to be really good. Right? If we go into next season with Jonathan Taylor and then Evan Hull as the 2, I think we'll be happy with that combination as well. Okay, but then Titus Leo, another guy that missed this entire season. And then Jalen Jones in the 7th round was able to come in. When there were other injuries, Jalen Jones came in. He was available all season long through training camp, preseason, regular season. Jalen Jones was always available, and Jalen Jones played incredible in his rookie season. So an amazing 7th round pick, but a lot of this draft class, most of this draft class, missed time throughout the season. Okay, some of these guys missed the entire season. Unfortunately, there just wasn't enough to see from the rookies. But again, at least we know Anthony Richardson looks like he's going to be an absolute star as long as he can stay healthy. Juju Brents needs to be able to stay on the field because he is very good when he's on the field. Josh Downs looks like he's going to be an absolute star in the league. There's potential with Blake Freeland, potential with Tomiade, but definitely some development that has to happen there. Will Mallory look like he could be a star in this league? We just need him to stay available and continue to develop in this offense. Evan Hull looks like he could be really good. Jalen Jones looks like he's probably going to be a stud in the NFL for a long time. So really good draft class. From what it seems, we just need to see more from these guys. We need some of these guys to continue to develop. And the best ability in the NFL is availability. We need these guys to stay healthy. This is going to be the core of our team going forward. Okay. And one of the other things that's going to be, staying the same going forward, part of the core going forward is going to be Gus Bradley. That's going to be the last point here. Gus Bradley, from all sounds of it, from, Shane Steichen saying he likes continuity, and Chris Ballard and the things that he had to say, he said he expected Gus Bradley to be back. So sounds like Gus Bradley will be the defensive coordinator. It'll be interesting to see how the Colts decide to build that defense up. What do we want to bring in? I have some ideas, have some things that we're definitely going to be talking about in the coming days. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you get notified of any videos that do come out. Of course, I appreciate you stopping by for another video. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.